Hello, my name is Mark Green and this is my co-worker Sandra Romers, and together we will be demonstrating how to properly operate the Novitool Amigo Splice Press, splicing monolithic belting, which is commonly used in food processing. Splices in monolithic belting must ensure a tight pitch tolerance and be free from pinhole air pockets. Everything about the Amigo has been designed to do just that, with integrated cutter, preheat and splice modes, and belt templates designed for flat belt positive drive bars and lug-tight belts. The Amigo and accessories from the transport case have been removed and set up for demonstration. The robust transport case is designed to conveniently store everything needed to complete your endless splice. It is extremely important to know the correct templates needed to complete a quality splice to ensure accurate pitch. Once you have identified the correct template for your belt being spliced, you can begin preparing the Amigo for belt end installation. The first step is to properly adjust the Platen stops. The purpose for adjusting the Platen stops is to ensure that a sufficient amount of clash is created when bringing the belt ends together when completing the splice. We will start by removing the guard and clamp bars, and then inspect the Platens for any unwanted debris that would potentially interfere with proper template installation. Unwanted debris can be removed by using a soft brush, like a paintbrush, across the width of both Platens. We will now install both templates into the Amigo Platens. The design of the template is such that it cannot be installed incorrectly. The concave cutout of the template fits into the convex location of the Platen. Both templates must be installed to set up the Platen stops so that there is a sufficient amount of material clash once the splice is completed. The back side of the template seats into the Platen first, and then the edge of the template closest to the emitter snaps in place. Pull out and twist locking pin into the self-retaining position and unfold the actuating handle. Install a section of belt so that the drive bar is engaged completely into both of the template cutouts. Once engaged in position, the belt is secured in place by installing both clamp bars. Loosen the stop plate using a 5mm hex wrench and position it so that it makes contact with the Platen face prior to tightening in place. Repeat this process at the opposite end of the Platen so that the stop plate makes contact with the blade holder and then tighten in place. Now the Platen stops are secured in position, the clamp bars, belting, and back template can be removed from the Amigo. The reason for only having one template installed at a time when preparing each belt end is because the belt is cut a ½ millimeter longer than pitch to provide for belt clash during the splice process. Position the actuating lever in the cut load position, confirming the locking pin is engaged. Engage the cutter crank handle and begin cranking the handle until the blade is positioned at the opposite end of the Amigo Platen. It will rest between the two clamp bar studs as a safety feature. Install a drive bar from the belt into the template so that there is enough belt to cover the gap between the Platens. When preparing positive drive belts, position the belt edge up against the Platen at the control end of the press. This will ensure the belt will not shift during the cutting process. Install the belt clamp bar tight over the installed belt and template. Note that the lip on the clamp bar faces inward for added support when cutting and splicing the belt. Install the second clamp bar with minimal tightening, being that it is primarily installed for safety, protecting the operator's hand from the cutting blade's path. Drive the cutting blade across the width of the belt by cranking the crank handle until the blade latches into the stowed housing. It's important to support the belt with your hand just prior to the blade completing its final 2 to 3 inches across the width of the belt. Failure to do so could result in a hook in the cut where the blade exits the belt. Loosen the clamp nuts and remove the clamp bars, belt, and belt waste from the platen. Next, relocate the belt template to the opposite platen and once again utilize the crank handle to position the cutter blade between the two clamp bar studs. Bringing in the second belt end from the opposite platen side, position the dry bar of the belt into the template so that there is enough belt to cover the gap between the platens. Position the belt edge up against the platen at the control end of the press. This will ensure the belt will not shift during the cutting process. Tightly secure the belt clamp bar over the installed belt and template. Note that the lip on the clamp bar faces inward for added support when cutting and splicing the belt. Install the second clamp bar with minimal tightening since it is primarily installed for safety, protecting the operator's hand from the cutting blade's path. Again, drive the cutting blade across the width of the belt by cranking the crank handle until the blade latches into its stowed housing. Then remove the handle. The supporting clamp bar and belt waist are removed and the clamp bar securing the prepared belt end is loosened temporarily so that the belt end can be repositioned and secured in the center of the press for the purpose of symmetrical height adjustment. Now that the second belt end has been prepared, we can leave it secured in place and install the previously prepared belt. Install the second template and load the already prepared belt end into the template and align the belt edges so they are flush. We will then secure the belt in place with the clamp bar, uniformly tightening the thumb nuts.
Release the locking pin, ensuring that it is in the self-retention position. The front platen should move in and out when moving the actuating lever.
Adjust clamping pressure as required to ensure horizontal alignment of the belt ends. The 2 mm hex wrench can be used to validate belt ends are flush. Note, before rechecking horizontal alignment after adjusting clamping pressure, be sure to move the platen out and then back in to ensure prepared belt ends have adjusted into position. Repeat adjustments as necessary. Bring the belt ends together so they make contact. Confirm visible gap at both stop plates. Open the platen all the way out in preparation for splicing. Install and close the guard. Connect the power cord to the Amigo power inlet and connect the power cord to the main power source. Set the heating mode to preheat. The preheat mode is used to reduce moisture in the belt at the belt ends prior to completing the splice. This process reduces the chance of pinholes forming that could potentially harbor bacteria. For a new belt, Flexco recommends at least 300 seconds for preheat prior to completing the splice. Next, depress the start button. While the Amigo is cooling down to 40 degrees Celsius, it's time to switch over to the splice mode. For this particular belt, we will be setting the time for 55 seconds. Once the white light illuminates, depress the green button to initiate the splice heating cycle. Once the splice time expires and the alarm sounds, immediately rotate the lever forward to the splice position until it stops. Hold in position for 5 seconds prior to releasing the lever. Now let the Amigo cool down to 40 degrees Celsius, at which time the white light will illuminate, indicating that it's time to assess the splice. The guard, clamp bars, and thumb nuts can be hot after splicing. Be sure to have the appropriate PPE on when removing the splice from the machine. Next, remove the guard and clamp bars. Skive off the top bead. Skive off the bottom bead. Trim the weld bead from both of the belt edges and inspect the splice for imperfections such as pinholes. And that's how you achieve a quality splice on the Novitool Amigo 1000.